there's a squirrel outside. Woo! Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about board games and board gamey things. I am here to do a preview for you, and I'm all alone today because Jeff is feeling a little under the weather, and so it's just gonna be me, and that's gonna be fine. We're gonna do just fine. It's gonna be great. Today's preview video is going to be on River of Gold, and this is published by Office Dog, who very kindly sponsored this video. So as per usual with our preview videos, I am going to do a little overview, and then I'm gonna jump into a bit of a discussion to help you decide whether or not River of Gold is the right game for you. So let's just, let's get into that, shall we? All right, let's chat about River of Gold. So River of Gold is part of the Legend of the Five Rings world. And essentially in this game, you are building out your trade empire. So how the game is played is you are going to have a die that you are going to be rolling, and you're rolling this die every turn. Now that die has 6 different faces, so it's a 6-sided die, and each face is going to have a different symbol on it. And that symbol is going to represent a different area of the River of Gold and different areas of the board. So on your turn, you are then going to have to decide what you want to do. So with that number that you have rolled, you can sail. You have 2 boats that are going to be along this River of Gold, which by the way, on the board is this like beautiful gold foil. It just pops. So there's 2 boats, and if you decide to sail, you're going to select one of those boats and choose to move it that number of spaces, being the spaces that you rolled on that die result. The next thing that you can do is you can build. Now there are a variety of build tiles that are going to be available to you, all offering different things. So the one thing is that you have to build in an area that matches the symbol that is on the die. So remember, I said each of the 6 die faces represents an area along that River of Gold. Now there are a variety of spots that you can build in, and they each have a different value. So you might have to pay 6 of your money in order to build in a certain place, and other places it might be 12. Then you're going to build one of the available tiles and place it into that area. Now the building tiles are really important because they are the benefits that you're actually going to be getting when you sail. So as you sail along the river, the first thing to start is that most of the areas that you're going to be sailing to will get you 1 money. Okay. However, as you continue to build buildings, it is going to enhance and enlarge the amount of things that you're going to be able to collect when you do that sale action. The important thing for you when you're building is that there are two sides to the building tile. There is one side that has a bit of a point, and that is what a person will be able to collect when they sail to that location. The other side, which is kind of the square backside, is what you will get if somebody sails to your location. So it's important to read the tiles to think about what you might need in the future. It could be some victory points, it might be money, it could be favor, it could be a bunch of different things. So that is something to take into consideration when you are building. Now, one thing I did forget to mention with the sail is not only are you moving along the river, but you're going to be collecting from the 4 different areas that your ship is kind of touching. So there'll be 4 touch points where your ship is. Primarily the base of before buildings is going to be 1, money, but as buildings grow up, you are going to get more and more options of things that you are able to collect. So some of those things might be favor, which is what you can use to spend in order to manipulate your die roll. There's also more money. There's also different items for trade. So there's silk, there is porcelain, there's rice, and these are different things that you are wanting to collect and gather, because another thing that you can do is you can deliver to your patrons or your customers. And there are all different types of customers that you can get. There are nobles, there are monks, there's a variety, and they each card will have a specific number of items that they need. And then once you deliver, and once again, each customer is going to have one of those symbols, so you'll need to have the correct die roll in order to be able to deliver to those customers. And then once you deliver, they're going to give you a variety of different rewards and benefits and a bunch of different stuff. So you want to also be able to manage those resources so that you can deliver to your customers. And it's important to note that you can't have more than 6 of each, and you also can't have more than 25 of your money. And in the game, money is called koku. So I should be calling it koku, but I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but koku is the money. That's another thing you need to consider, is there's a lot of resource management that you're dealing with, because you want to make sure that you're collecting the right things so you can satisfy your customers. But you might only be able to focus on 1 or 2 customers at a time, because you can only have so many things. Another main component of this game is influence. So there are 6 different influence tracks that you are going to be moving along based on the influence that you are gathering. Every time you build a building, you will be gaining influence in one of those regions, aka the region that you would have rolled the die for. Now, as you move along those influence tracks, you are going to be gaining some benefits, potentially some koku, maybe some favor, maybe some resources. There's going to be a variety of things, and this is another area of the game that you also need to consider balancing, because at the end of the game, you're going to receive victory points based on how far along you are ahead of other people on those influence tracks. So if you're in first place, depending on the track, you're going to receive X amount of victory points. And then the next person, if they're within 5 spaces, will also receive points. So even if you're not first, you want to make sure that you're at least keeping up with the person who's in first, so that you're still going to be able to score some victory points. So you need to stay within 5 spaces of them. So that's another thing that you kind of need to take into consideration. Now, as I mentioned, favor is also a big thing in this game. So everybody is going to have their own kind of player board in front of them, and on that player board you are going to have a favor track, and on the favor track you are going to have something called divine favor. Now, the divine favor is essentially your limit to how much favor you can have, and you are going to be able to increase that throughout the game so that you can gain more favor. Like I mentioned, favor is really important because it is going to allow you to manipulate that die that you're rolling so that you can do more, I guess, of what you really want to do. So you might roll a 1 and you're like, ugh, I really needed a 3. Well, you can spend 2 favor to change that 1 into a 3. You might want that 3 because you have a customer that you really need to deliver to, or there's an area along the river that would be more beneficial to you for collecting those resources. I did also want to mention it does come with player aids, which is always a great thing because it has all of the kind of icons and references that you need, which, you know, we love a good reference card. So I just wanted to point that out. So there is going to come a point in the game once Era 1 is over, and that is essentially when all of the level 1 buildings are no longer on the board. You're then going to have a visit from the Emperor because he wants to see how your trade stuff is going, and you definitely want to impress the Emperor. Basically what this is going to do, it is going to give you all of your owner rewards. So remember when I mentioned when you build, there is going to be a section of the build tile that is going to be a reward that you get when people use your building. Well, in this instance, you're getting all of those. So before Era 1 kind of hits its end, you want to make sure that you're building lots of goodies, okay? Lots of good stuff. And then the last thing I really kind of wanted to mention is there are objective cards. Basically, let me just kind of walk you through every step. It's pretty straightforward. You are going to spend Divine Favor, so you'll remember that that's to change your die roll, and we'll get to when you roll the die very soon. Then you're going to take an action, and like I mentioned, you can choose one of the actions that you wanted to do. You can build, you can sail, you can deliver to a customer, and I will mention you do also have the option to trade. So if you have resources that you don't necessarily need, you can trade those in for different resources, okay? So that's always an optional action that you can do. Then after you do your action, you are going to claim masteries if you are able. After you have checked that and done that, then you are going to roll your die at the end of your turn, which is really helpful because then you kind of can prepare for your next turn instead of having to roll and think on the spot. You will roll and then you will be able to kind of determine and decide what you might want to do while somebody else is taking their turn. You're then going to continue that formula over and over again until the end game condition is met, which is when the Era 2 building stack is depleted. So when the last tile from Era 2 is moved to the building row, so you'll have a kind of stack and then you have your building row. So when that happens, it's going to trigger end game. Then there's going to be a variety of things that you're going to score more points for. So like I mentioned earlier, on those regional influence tracks, you are going to see who is furthest along, who is second along. And I wanted to mention those within 5 spaces thing. That's for a 2-player game, and I've only played this game at 2 players, so that's all I can speak to. I believe that is slightly different in a higher player count. You are also going to score extra points for how many customers you have served, and I also didn't mention when you do deliver to a customer, you then get to draw 2 new customer cards and choose one to keep, and then the other one is going to go away, so that's how you gain new customers, so you can kind of constantly be working on those deliveries. Some of the customers also have end game bonuses and victory points, so you'll need to make sure that you check those as well and give yourself the points accordingly. And then it's whoever has the most victory points is going to win, and if there's a tie, the Divine Favor is going to kind of come into play to break the tie. But that's how the game works. It is relatively straightforward. There aren't any like overly complicated or complex rules that you might kind of get confused by. It's very much so you take your turn, you pick an action, you check to see if you've reached an objective, you roll your die, and then you continue doing that until the game ends. So you might be wondering, who is this game for? I think that this game is for people who enjoy almost like a competitive game that is a solitaire experience. So there's not a ton of interaction that happens in this game. You could be in the same river space as someone else. The main interaction is that people are going to be using your buildings and you're going to be using their buildings, and so you might be getting benefits from other people and so on and so forth. So there might be a little bit of strategy and being like, okay, well, I'm not going to go to that spot because I know Jeff has a building there and I don't want him to get those victory points. So there's a little bit of strategy within that. This game I would definitely classify as one of those easy to learn, maybe a little bit harder to master, because you really do. It's a lot of balance. Like, when do you want to sail to collect the resources, and is this the right time because the die result isn't going to get me to where I need to go? So do I need to spend my favor, but then am I using too much favor? I need to make sure that I have the right resources in order to deliver to the customers, because the customers, the abilities that they're going to give you in the rewards can be quite powerful. And so you definitely don't want to forget about delivering to your customers. And same with the buildings. Like, I think that like it's a huge way and kind of one of the main primary ways that you're going to be able to move along those influence tracks is by building buildings. And so that is also going to influence what buildings you are choosing. And there's a bunch of stuff to kind of think about. But with that being said, it's not complicated decisions. There's just more strategic depth in this game than there is like a rules overhead, I would say. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, obviously it has a beautiful production. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of gold foil. You can probably see that on the box. It's on the board as well. But I would definitely say if you enjoy just kind of working on your own thing, trying to really like maximize and get as many points as you can. I also do believe that there are a variety of different types of strategies that you can try. As an example, in the last game that Jeff and I played, I went like full on in buildings. I was just trying to build as much as I could to kind of get a bit of a monopoly along the river, whereas Jeff was really focused on customers and fulfilling orders and doing those types of things. So if that sounds like something that interests you, I would definitely say that you should check out River of Gold. One thing I will say is that River of Gold is currently on Board Game Arena, so if you're not sure and you might like to give it a try, you can definitely try it out on there. Jeff and I are currently playing it on Board Game Arena and starting to invite other people to play as well. It plays between 2 to 4 players for 60 to 90 minutes, and I would definitely say at a 2-player game, you're probably looking more towards that 60 versus the 90, but I can definitely see at a 4-player game it getting up to that 90, especially depending on people's thinking time. I don't think it necessarily will give you a ton of AP if that's something that you deal with. We were able to make our turns pretty quickly because, like I said, you roll that die at the end of your turn so you can have time to think about what you might like to do next. But yeah, that is River of Gold. So if any of that sounds like something you might be interested in, I will have all the links and everything that you need in the description below for River of Gold. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. If you would like to play River of Gold with me or with Jeff, you should definitely consider joining the Discord because we are more than open to play this game. Like, we've been playing it a lot because I'm just trying to figure out all the different strategies and stuff like that. So we'd be happy to play it with you if you'd like to test it out. But that is everything that I have for you today. Now, if you're interested in buying board games, you should first start by checking your friendly local gaming store. And for us, that is the Boardroom Game Cafe. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. I hope to see you again soon. And now I say goodbye. Goodbye. Doo-doo-dees. That was my impression of Jeff. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster